Patriots you'll ever be. Hey, it's us again. We're back. It's Patriots United for America, and we've taken a little time off because we don't get paid for this. The only reason we're doing this is because we're Patriots United for America. But lots happened since we were last here. We had a crazy debate. We got laptops being found in brothels. We got, just all kind of crazy stuff going on. We got all kind of accusations going on, and you could just feel the amplitude getting turned up as we get closer and closer, that the craziness is just going to increase and the desperation is just going to increase. But I think the latest thing with the laptop that was that turned up at a computer repair shop in Delaware, and then somehow Giuliani gets involved, gets called, and then the laptop makes it to the Post, and then Bannon's involved. I mean, you talk about desperation. These boys are redefining what desperation is. I mean, what's your thoughts on that there, buddy?
Well, I think it's such a non-issue, frankly. Whatever Hunter Biden does is frankly not the business of particularly anyone besides the law and Hunter Biden. And it's not really a reflection of Joe Biden's character either. I have problems with Joe Biden's character and his policies when he's done, but Hunter Biden isn't one of them. And I think now people got mad at Twitter for taking down people who were reposting the pictures and talking about it. But Twitter has a relatively clear policy on that. They do not allow stolen or hacked content on Twitter. So like if this is obtained via illegal methods, it's not allowed on Twitter. And frankly, that I think is a decent policy. Now, to the conservatives who are complaining about censorship, honestly, I for one, I do think that we have a lots of problems in this country in regards to social media being used as a platform for censorship. It certainly keeps ideas within a certain, it doesn't allow the Overton window is certainly limited by social media. And frankly, I find that disturbing that, Facebook, Twitter, and Google have so much power over the political conversation in this country. However, they are private companies at the end of the day, and the same people who are advocating for smaller government, free market, and so on and so on, are the ones who are complaining about this, and I find that relatively ironic. Now, to back to the laptops themselves, I think in the coming weeks we'll start to see, or in the coming week, really, I think this is going to be a big week. I think we're headed into a very, very tumultuous week. It's only Wednesday, and I think by Friday the conversation is going to be in totally different, and that's kind of what you do with the 24-hour news cycle, right? It's it's just on and on and on, and now Giuliani has a scandal on his hands with Borat. Oddly enough, did you see that?
I did, but again, like, it's just all these non-issues. I think the
Yeah,
laptop
exactly.
and Hunter are a giant non-issue, and then Giuliani, everybody knows he's a pig. I mean, what breaking news is that?
Yeah,
Like that, it's funny. I mean, I
yeah,
think it's
right.
really funny that Borat got him, and I'm really looking forward to the release of that on Friday. I think the timing of that
Yeah.
is comic genius, because Thursday night we're going to have another comical debate, and we're going to have a guy that gets his mic cut off, and you're going to hear him screaming like this from the other side of the room. I don't know about that. What
Uh,
about this? What about the
oh yeah.
emails? What about? And then the mic will come back and he'll get to talk again.
So I
Excuse me.
my one problem with Borat is as someone who's an IA major, is it kind of ridicules the actual government of Kazakhstan. When the original movie came out, they were not happy. Like they were not happy that they were shown in such a light,
All
as like
right.
an
They spent a
impoverished.
lot of money. They spent a lot of
Yeah,
money trying to make it very clear that
that
it, like, their ambassador or whatever
right.
it was, wasn't getting his feet kissed by Borat, and just the whole thing, right?
A-
So I
a-
mean, I think it like something like $20 million in a re-education fund, which is
And
unbelievable.
in Kazakhstan's defense, it's generally not a very impoverished country. It's actually a rather developed country. Now, forgive my little Kazakhstan tangent, but back to the U.S. politics side of it. It is really really funny that they're releasing it now. Like,
Yeah, so the movie gets released on Friday.
yep,
Comic genius that's going on, and and the debate is guaranteed to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
We got two guys. Yeah, have you ever seen that political compass thing that's going viral right now?
Oh, which one? I've taken that test many times.
Well, there's one that's the x-axis is economic,
Yep.
and then the y-axis, the rise axis
Yep.
is authoritarian
Yep.
versus
Libertarian.
libertarian, right?
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
kind of a weird way to split it or whatever. But
Right.
if you look at it, and it's gone viral, so I think it's relevant to talk about it, and it's politicalcompass.org. But if you look at it, Trump and Biden, their dots are almost on top of each other.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
like literally, they're in the same quadrant,
Yep.
and not only are they in the same quadrant, but they're in the same like very far out segment of the authoritarian protect companies
Hmm.
and corporations side of it. So it's really sad that that's where we're at because and then you got one of those two calling the other one a socialist
Right.
and that he's extreme or whatever. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
And even someone like Bernie Sanders, who we consider so extreme in this country, in Europe, and in many other places in the world, he's center left, or
Right.
even centrist. I mean, for God's sake, the German conservatives believe in socialized medicine, and here, that's policy. Just shows where our Overton window is, like where we consider normal ideas to be. The ideas that to us that are normal are really right wing ideas elsewhere in the world, or
So the Overton window, because we've been wanting to talk about that for a long
yeah.
time. So what explain what the Overton window is?
So it's basically what ideas are considered acceptable and mainstream in society. So it's like, if I can best explain it. So if you have the middle is here, the middle is in the center, right? And then you have it goes up to, oh
The
my gosh,
middle is usually in the center. That's
I
good. That's good.
edit this out. This is horrible. I gotta go back. I gotta go back. Okay.
No, that'll never be edited out. So
Oh
we're good with
no,
that.
that's not good. So
So the middle is the center. So
So,
everybody at
so right,
home,
right, right, right. The
there we
middle
go.
is the center. So the center is usually where policy is made. It usually comes around to this center. Populism will either go towards there's populism or popular policies, which are kind of around the center, and then above that, there's. I mean, I don't know how to really quantify it, but it's basically where the idea of the center is. Like, what is centrism in your context? That's where the Overton window is centered. And the ideas around that are center right and center left, is what's considered mostly acceptable by most people. Most people would not want to be extremists. Of course, you have exceptions to that, but most people oppose generally, you know, National Socialism and fascism on the extreme right, though I consider that very flawed, and social or communism, Marxism on the far left, and all the other ideas, right, that are between National Socialism and Marxism, or fascism and Marxism, are within this Overton window of acceptability, right? So in our country, for example, questioning democracy, like, is democracy good, is not an idea in our Overton window, because we in the society have decided that democracy is the only way that we could see us ruling this country.
Even though we're hell bent on destroying it.
Oh well, I wouldn't say that. I don't think we are. I think
Well,
I
it's
think
under attack. It's
by
definitely under
whom?
attack.
By whom?
By corporations. I think
That I
the
agree with.
the power of the lobbies in this
Yes,
country.
absolutely. That's true.
Like go back to the Overton window thing in healthcare. Then,
Yeah.
so to hear politicians talk about healthcare and even look at what Obama and the smartest people working on it in the world could get by the lobbyists and could get passed. It
Right.
was a really crappy try. I mean, pardon my words for that, but I don't want to use anything worse, but it was a really bad implementation
Right.
of Medicare for all or single payer or whatever. I mean, it was none of those things, right?
Well, it didn't have a
And
public option. It kind of rested on this idea of a public option, which would decrease prices via competition, but it didn't even have that.
right, I mean, it was just the worst. As a entrepreneur and business owner that buys healthcare for
Mhm.
hundreds of people and has done so for the last 15 years, it's the worst of everything. It was just a
Right.
continuation of more nonsense in this country, right? But that's as far left as what we could get across. Again, you got like Biden saying that, and then you have the Trump guys
Right.
and the Trump camp saying that that's socialism, communism, whatever, because they use both words. I mean, literally, most of the people that you're going to debate with that are in that camp are going to say that communism and socialism are the same thing, and that makes me like literally when I'm talking to somebody that says that, just say, okay, this isn't you. You need to get a dictionary and you need to study some basic economics and systems before you can even have this conversation, right? Like you're not even at the grade of a fifth grader, what they're going to teach in fifth grade in Western civilization. So why would I spend my time debating with you? But anyway, you go ahead.
About that one moment. Political terminology, the terms of politics are really, really hard to pin down. And people confusing like socialism and communism. Even the Soviet Union called itself a socialist state and not a communist state.
Right, right.
And if you use the term socialism in a Marxist sense, which is the state ownership of the means of production, then it's definitely not true. Now, if you use socialist in the sense of like social democracy, well, that's more accurate, but it's
Or
still
the
wrong.
Scandinavian countries, or the
Yeah,
Scandinavian countries, or that type of
right,
socialism, right?
right,
I mean, I don't view any of the Scandinavian countries as being communist in any way.
they're not.
Right.
Right.
But at the
Objectively, they're
same
not.
time, right. But when you're debating with some of these people, but back to the
Yeah,
other subject. So you have like the far left,
right,
as far left as we can go with one of the candidates that we have right now was involved in implementing a very corporatocracy type healthcare, and that was like the best that they could do. And then you have the other side, the other camp saying we don't even want to talk about this, that's socialism and that's communism, right?
right.
So when I say that our democracy is hijacked, when you do a poll of Americans,
Right,
most Americans want universal health care, and most Americans want a Medicare for all type solution. I mean,
right,
the majority does, but we can't get it. And
right,
why can't we get it? Because of big pharma, and
right,
because the hospital systems and the insurance companies
right,
and the way things are structured. Now, if you looked at it and said, well, the ACA was a step and it was an attempt to go in the right direction, you could say, yeah, so you have pre-existing conditions covered, but that's about it. That's about the only, and that's a huge one. Don't get me wrong, that's a huge one,
for sure.
but that's about it. Everything else was just as bad as before. The premiums were ridiculous. The
Right,
whole scam where your insurance companies build $50 million for a procedure, and then they negotiate it down to $15, and then all this, it's just ridiculous the way the pricing's done. There's no transparency. It's nuts. Like, you go hurt yourself in France. Like, the people in this country really like to beat up on France and how left wing and socialist they are and stuff like that. But go hurt yourself. Go get food poisoning as a 3 month pregnant mother in
mm-hmm.
France, and see what kind of health care you get for a couple of $100, or have a tree limb fall on your 60-year-old head and split it wide open, and see what kind of health care you get for $60, and then get back to me on that. It's a horrible system, right? And one of the big things is, well, what about taxation? They
Right,
pay 50% in taxes. They pay 60% in taxes. Man, if you add up everything that we're paying here in the higher tax brackets, over, let's say you make over 100 grand a year,
right,
and you drive cars and you pay for your health care, and you pay federal tax, state tax, ad valorem tax, property tax, sales tax, you add it all up, and then you put your health premiums on top of that, we're right there. We're
not
right
far behind.
there. Yeah, if not even worse. So, I think the argument that we're paying more than anybody in the world and getting less is a very, very valid argument.
Well, it's true. Healthcare is a massive percentage of our GDP, and medical debt's the number one reason of bankruptcy. So I think healthcare needs fundamental reform. Now, do I think a full socialized Medicare system, as they have in France, is ideal for this country? That I'm not sure. I think a hybrid system is kind of what we're headed towards and what we probably need in the long term. Something like what the Netherlands has, which is there is private insurance and you have to have it, and but it's way cheaper than it is here. I know a family, they pay $30 a month for their entire family. That's their health insurance payment, and the rest is covered by the government. And I think that's, possible in this country. Maybe a little more. I'm not sure. But the point is, this is not my area of expertise. But I would like to say that there's a better solution to our healthcare problems than the ones we have now, and that I am sure of.
Well,
Um,
my point was that you were asking why I say that our democracy is being hijacked.
yeah,
Everybody in the country wants something better, and we can't get it.
right.
And when we don't even have really a choice. We got a guy that will probably take another baby step toward it if he's elected,
Mhm.
and then another guy that says he's not going to get rid of pre-existing conditions, but he is. They're going to nuke that, and they're going to do what they can to Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all kind of things if Trump got reelected. So
Are,
again, that's not serving. I mean, that's not a democracy. I
are,
mean,
are you sure about that one though?
well, I mean, the
I mean,
country also almost unanimously across the board, across the country, wants to
right,
legalize marijuana. And
right.
where are we with that? I mean, we don't
Nowhere federally.
we have no federal
Right.
law on that whatsoever.
But
That's is that democratic?
but I wonder if Trump, as a person, would be interested in getting rid of pre-existing conditions. I don't think he would. If it were like a Mitt Romney figure, then I would be terrified of that happening, right? If it were someone who presents themselves as like a corporate centrist, I'd be, yeah, then that makes sense. But I don't think Donald Trump as president would. Maybe I'm being
Well,
hopeful. Maybe I'm being hopeful,
I
but
hope we
it's
don't get to see. Let's just. I mean, I hope that's a test that we don't get to bear out because I know
well,
that they're trying to get it, and they don't have a. They're trying to strike down ACA,
yeah.
and they don't have a substitute plan. And if you look
They
at these
say they do.
guys,
They say they do, but
but
I've
they
never seen
don't. If
never
you
seen
did, you would have whipped it out already.
it.
You would have whipped it out about 60 days ago
Well, I
and won
said
the election.
right. I said on the other episode of ours that if Trump came out and said Medicare for all today, he'd win the election.
Absolutely.
It would be simple as that. Now, I couldn't imagine Donald Trump outflanking Joe Biden from the left, but and anything is possible. I feel like anything is possible in this country when it comes to
He should have
politics.
done that.
He
He should
really
have
should
done
have.
that.
That would
It
be
would have made
interesting.
him a hero.
Yeah,
I might have even voted for him. I mean, because Biden had a shot at it
yeah,
and he didn't do it. They had a really good shot at it. They had the House, the Senate,
yeah,
the presidency, and
yeah.
then we got ACA, right? Like,
And if you watch that debate, if you were a Sanders supporter, if you were someone who considers himself like left wing in this country, and you saw Joe Biden's performance, I think that should really disturb you. Like all he did lots of trashing of the left. Came out against the Green New Deal. He came out against all these policies that were left wing against Bernie Sanders, just to try to get this mythical ideological moderate, right? I think most people are moderate in rhetoric and moderate in their opinions of the other side. But I do think most people have principles and ideas and things they want done, right? I think a lot of the Democratic Party, its base wants, socialized medicine. And then he comes out against it to appeal to this like center right audience. I don't think that makes much sense. Like I don't know why you, as someone who nominally, is a member of the left wing, the left party in the country, because we only have two for some godforsaken reason, would do that. Like why would you trash your own supporters? Because Sanders has told all of his supporters to go vote for Biden, whether they will or not. They probably will. They did last time, and they still got the blame for Hillary's loss. But to me, I would want to reach out to left wing people. If I were Joe Biden, I would reach out to the left and say, we will get some of what you want done, even if it's not full socialized medicine. Let's say it's public option on ACA. Let's say it's something. But he hasn't done anything to try to earn the vote of the left or to reach out to people on the left at all. And
well,
that's,
if you're game theory, if you're applying game theory to it,
yeah,
though, right? So that debate, everybody that's going in that debate, I would propose that not very few people that watch that debate, if they both like beheaded kittens on that
Right.
stage, that anybody would change their vote.
Right.
Or if somebody, if one of the two did something just absolutely horrific, for the most part, I'd say, the majority of the Trump people, there's no possible way that they're moving.
Right.
The majority of the Biden people, they're already decided too. So pretty much whatever Joe says for his camp, he's not losing them, right? So he could literally say, I also love the Nazis and I also support white supremacy.
Right.
Vote for me, right? And he wouldn't lose any votes by that, but he could possibly pick up three or four more, right? So from a game theory standpoint, I kind
Yeah.
of get it, but I do get what you're saying, and it's almost an honest thing that he's doing because
Right.
he's laying out how far right he is, and
Right.
like we originally discussed, they're not different. They one I think Biden will have a lot more respect for the office, and he'll be a lot more tolerable on
Sure.
the world
Maybe.
stage from a
Oh, I don't know about that one. The world stage.
I don't think he'll be bumping people out of the way at the UN and
NATO. I think it was the Macedonian president at NATO.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever, right? Like, but it just won't be nonsense stuff like that. I don't think there would ever be a Helsinki episode where he said, I really trust Vladi over our intelligence community, whether he's
Well,
playing games or whatever. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
but
I mean,
I
sends
mean,
the wrong message.
Obama started wars, and I consider Obama's foreign policy record a lot worse than Donald Trump's, frankly. And I consider it a bigger affront to the world, frankly, than I do President Trump's. I think why would you trust the American intelligence community? I think that was a completely reasonable statement. The American
Oh,
intelligence community has consistently lied to get us into war. I mean, look at anthrax in Iraq,
no,
right?
that's true. That's
So,
true.
so why the saying I don't trust the CIA? I frankly was that was kind of a nice thing to hear from somebody in that high of an office. And Vladimir Putin is by no means perfect, but he's not going anywhere. We're not going to get rid of him. Russia is
True.
is
True.
a, I think we have to work with Russia. I think we have to have come to understanding with Russia, as the Europeans are trying to, because Europe and Russia trade oil. It's the big export from Russia. That's not going to go away. So I think Donald Trump's foreign policy and foreign presentation isn't nearly as bad as people say it is, as much
Well,
as
I
it looks
mean,
bad.
like we've discussed before, his body count is lower than any
Yeah.
president in my lifetime, and I'm 30 years older than you, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and his body counts less, but at the same
Very
time,
right.
his alienation
Yeah.
of allies and then cozying up to dictators,
Mm.
whether it's just in public posturing and it's totally different behind the scenes or whatever, it's just nauseating. I mean, I just find it nauseating. I think it's disrespectful to
Sure.
everybody that's come before
Okay.
that has fought the Cold War and all the sacrifices that were made in the Cold War and just all that BS. I mean, I don't think you have to continue the Cold War, but at the same time, to publicly diss public servants in the United States. And if you got a problem with your intelligence community, you should probably fix that. But
Yeah.
but dissing him on the world stage, standing next to Vladi and saying, I
Vladimir.
really trust this guy, right?
Mhm.
That's I don't know. We
Well,
can differ on that a little
yeah.
bit.
I guess my big point is, like, I don't think it particularly is that bad, because if I think what's worse is I think action matters a lot more than appearances. And that's what I'm judging him off of. Now that might be flawed. Appearances do matter, but this rift that we've seen intensify between the European Union and the U.S. and other allies, in my opinion, has always been inevitable. Like, there's no ideological threat. The Soviet Union's gone. It's not 1991 anymore. I mean, is there a reason for American troops to be in Germany? I don't think so. And I think many Germans I know and many Germans I've spoken to, see that the same way. And that's not a new sentiment. It's a sentiment that's been there for the last 20 years. It has intensified in the past three. And I think Trump, if anything, is accelerating.
But that's more of a function of the military industrial complex and just
Right,
having outposts everywhere and being able to
right,
build that back to the American people. That's not so much a strategy thing or a deterrent even, right? When once
right.
you get into the nuclear age, having some troops on the ground in Germany is kind of ridiculous, right?
Moot. Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
but again, I mean, and you look at like something very symbolic like
right.
the Paris
Climate
climate.
Accord.
Yeah, now that's one
Yeah,
that
I agree there.
I mean that well no, I'm going to go with Trump on that one.
Oh,
That thing was damn near
really?
worthless. I mean
Yes. Well, yeah,
it's just purely symbolic, right? And in the two countries that are going to be the worst polluters on the planet, it didn't hold them to anything.
correct.
And and I get it that America led everybody to this and
Mhm,
now the rest of the world wants to Americanize and have their car and
mhm.
their air conditioner
Right,
and eat their beef and their chicken,
right,
but the planet can't sustain it, right?
right.
So and we don't have 1.6 billion people hanging out in our borders.
Mhm,
So any climate accord that you're jumping in's got to have some teeth for India and China.
mhm.
And
Absolutely.
and the Paris one didn't, right? It was just kind of this symbolic thing that we're going to do what we can do. And that's that one I agreed with Trump on. The
Iran
Iran
deal
one,
was that was bad.
yeah, that one I didn't agree with
Yeah,
him
yeah,
on. I
I
think we
agree.
should have stayed with that. And me and you have talked about it before that Iran's one of the most liberal countries in as far as like women's rights and women can drive. I mean, they have their extremist groups that are very anti-U.S.
Yeah,
Rightfully so. We got a great history there of screwing around with their governments and stuff.
right, right,
But foreign policy wise, that was probably an agreement that would be nice to still be a part of and still be doing the
right,
right thing with, right?
for sure.
But again, I mean, I think the point of this whole episode that we're kind of dancing around is that there's nowhere near as much distance between these two candidates as there should be in a two-party system. We have
Right.
two candidates that are remarkably the same.
And you would hope that if they were different, you would have policy discussions. But in the debates, and I assume the next one's going to be broadly similar, there's going to be no discussion of policy, and that really is the fundamental problem, is that we don't talk about policy, we talk about personality. We talk about things that are frankly meaningless in the big picture. And I for one, am rather excited to see um, what's going to happen on the election day. I think that it's going to be interesting no matter what who wins, and no matter how long it takes to count the votes, because it's not going to be over that night. I'm pretty sure. I think it's going to take a while, and
I don't. I think with they already got 30 million votes,
yeah, I
and
voted.
did you already vote? I didn't.
Yeah,
I'm letting it die down a little bit, but I'll catch it before the 30th. But I think you're going to have half the vote that was already cast, and you're going to have those numbers well counted, and it's going to be even though turnout's going to be um, record breaking turnout. I think what's left to vote on election day is actually going to be a number smaller than what's had to be counted in past elections. But
really.
yeah, because there was I mean, so we're at 30 million already. So
Right.
if you say there's 130 million
Voters.
and we're on October, we still got 10 days of early voting and we're only 5 days in, do the math. I mean, if it stays at this pace, we'll be at 100 million and they'll only have 30 million votes to count on election day. So it could be much better than everybody thinks.
That would be really good if that would happen. People are voting early, obviously because of COVID, and frankly, I voted early in the 2018 election as well. I mean, I think frankly you should vote in every election that you can. And you should always vote early because I don't like going and waiting in line. I just get an absentee ballot. Now, some states are weird about it. Georgia is pretty liberal. You just apply for it, you get it, and you send it out. It's pretty easy. Um, but you know, I don't know. It's no matter what. I'm not an election predictor. I'm not a statistician. I don't know, but I think no matter what happens, it's going to be a very interesting night, and I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to get here, right? I think all this BS leading
Yeah.
up to it is becoming tiresome, right?
Well,
You have
we have
you
a
have
really long election cycle, you know? Like our elections take 2 years.
it's ridiculous. Just and go back to the point that the candidates don't have any difference between them. You should be able to do it in a week.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Like the guys are so similar to each other. And what's so amazing is like everybody's like the fate of the free world and democracy are riding on this election, and the two camps could not be further apart. You have,
Right.
I mean, I'm not even going to label the two camps, but they're radically opposed,
Right.
and we have two candidates that are probably as close together than we have had in any probably any election. I mean, Clinton and Bush appeared to be very different, but Clinton was more right wing than any Democrat that had come before him,
Yeah.
and maybe more right wing fiscally than any Republican that's come after him.
It's
So
insanity that we
yeah,
have this electoral system where we're so close together.
and we only have but it all goes back to Marx, right? So Marx said if you have a two-party system, it's just the illusion of a two-party system, and they'll be
One party
colluding.
system.
Yeah, they'll be colluding together to get nothing done. And man, that's another threat to democracy, right? We got two parties colluding
Right.
together to get nothing done, and it's a mess. It's a
It is.
mess.
But it's not an irreparable mess, that I will say. It's by no means beyond repair.
Right.
I think we just need a different electoral system. Like not getting rid of the electoral college as a concept, but maybe getting rid of, I don't know. I don't know how I would design it. I want to just copy and paste the German system because that would give us a multi-party system. And then, you could actually vote your conscience on people, making fun of you or saying you're wasting your vote. That's the worst sentiment to me in this country is when people say you're wasting your vote if you vote third party. The only way that you're wasting your vote is by not voting.
Right. That's absolutely right.
You have you have
Well,
you
it's
have
tricky
voting
though,
rights.
right?
I don't think it that why is it tricky? I don't think it's tricky at
Well,
all.
you have a spoiler guy, right? Like you have Ross Perot, he was a spoiler guy. You have Jill Stein and the other moron that were spoiler guys last time.
I don't
If it
think they're
wasn't for those morons, the popular vote would have won. It's a mess. I don't think we're ever going to have a real third party in this country because of that fact. Because if you
well,
get a real third party candidate, they're going to be hurting one or the other too.
right. But frankly, I think that if you find the two mainstream candidates so abhorrent, which frankly I do,
They are.
you should vote for someone who's more you should vote your conscience, in my opinion, because that is, in my opinion, the way I sleep at night. Like if I voted for one of the two candidates that I find both important, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, I couldn't live with myself because I would not want to endorse their power and the way that they run this country. So, but I think not only are you protesting this two-party system by voting third party, you are, the only way third parties are going to get momentum and become a force and get more attention and get more money, it's kind of a snowball effect, is by people voting for them. That's my logic, right? If you want third parties to succeed and you want a third party in the country that's practical, because it's happened in the past, you should start voting for third parties.
Yeah, I mean they used to have all kind of like the socialist
Right.
candidate, right? Like
Right.
I am the socialist guy, and no, it's true. I just
And,
don't see it happening because by not voting, you elected Donald Trump, or by voting for the moron or Jill Stein,
right.
then you voted for Donald Trump.
But
So
but to
it's a
those
mess.
who say things like that, to those who say if you voted for Jill Stein, you voted for Donald Trump. What I would say to you is, why didn't Hillary earn my vote? Why didn't Hillary or the Democratic Party earn my support?
No,
I
that's
right,
very valid.
right. That's my point. Maybe I'm young and idealistic, and I haven't gone through the ringer enough times to really get it. I wasn't here in '92, when Ross
Right.
Perot
Right.
changed history.
I mean,
Um,
from a mathematical standpoint, it just gets ridiculous, right? It's like who is this hurting? And I guess that you could, if you had four, and I mean, look at the Georgia congressional seat
right.
that's up. It's got what 10 candidates in it or whatever. It's a
Senate race,
mess.
Senate race, right?
Yeah, it's only two parties, but there's
Right.
10 candidates, and both parties should have taken care of that. The Republican Party should have taken care of their business and had their one candidate out front, and the Democratic Party should have taken care of their business and had theirs out front.
That's because it's a special election. That's why. Because
it's a mess, though, right? I mean, it's just a mess.
But they couldn't run a primary for a special election. You can't really do that. So
yeah, but everything's done in a smoky room.
Yeah, that's a special
behind closed doors anyway, right? So
who's Kelly Loeffler? Why is she our senator?
Yeah, right. I got a very big question on that. Okay, that's a whole nother episode. So guys, we're gonna sign off because I heard the alarm going off in the background, and we got some interesting debate stuff that's coming up and crazy things that we'll be reporting on next week, hopefully. Yeah. And I'm not sure how relevant we're going to be in the future, but we'll see. We'll see the political landscape in this country and how it resolves itself over the next couple of weeks. So that's about all I got. Anything you want to say in signing off?
Nope. And I'd like to say I officially encourage you to vote third party in this election.
Oh, okay. No,
that's my official statement.
That's coming from the man that said the middle is in the center and the center is in the middle. That's
correct. That's me. That's my statement today.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.